Welcome back, everybody. Once again, my name is Kevin McClellan, and I want to say what a great day we've already had. We've got another panel coming up, and this one is one I've been looking forward to. You know, in these COVID times, businesses that weren't ready for e-commerce have had to get ready quickly, and those that were had to, have had to review and enhance how they go about doing it securely. And so I believe this next panel is going to be absolutely what people have been waiting for and looking forward to hear. I'm going to let Dennis King, who's going to be the moderator, introduce his panelists today, but I get the pleasure of introducing him. Dennis is someone that I've had the pleasure of working with for a long, long time now. We have worked on many, many projects and have done so very closely. He is currently my boss at the Small Business Development Center, where I worked to be an advisor to help the restaurants in Santa Clara County, along with several businesses in the Cupertino area. But I am looking forward to having him introduce the panel and moderating the group. And Dennis, if you can come on to the screen and join us on the main stage, that'd be great. Oh, it appears that Dennis is not live just yet on the screen. So hopefully he'll join us shortly. It's funny because I had tried to call him a little bit earlier, and I was going to check in with him for the event to see if there was something I should or shouldn't perhaps say to him in regards to introducing him, but was not able to get through to him. Normally, we actually have a call at this time for the Small Business Development Center advisors, but I know that he is definitely planning on being here today. Do we want to go? Give us a moment, folks, as I'm looking to our technical group to see how we get Dennis onto the stage. So give us just one moment. While they're doing that, I would mention that I hope that you all had a chance to visit the expo and take the polls, and also sign up for the different information. Oh, it looks like we've got Dr. Sarah Rushnick here. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Great
Very
to be
good.
here.
Awesome.
Everybody.
Hi, Carolyn. Welcome.
Thank you.
I think we're going to also have Dave Cortese here and a couple of others. While we are waiting for some of the technical difficulties, Dr. Rushnick, I hear that you have a couple of slides that you are going to be sharing.
If there's time, it's fine. If not, but sometimes.
So why don't you go ahead and begin with that presentation. And then we'll see if we can't sort out the rest of what's happening with
And
Dennis.
how do I go about sharing my slides? No.
Raj should have allowed you to do that.
Oh, I think I see it. I think so. Application. Let me just see here. Hold on. Let's see.
It's on the bottom. There's a computer icon.
Yeah, I see that. You know, every system
is a little bit different. Yeah, and unfortunately, we are, or for better or for worse, we're learning how to work through the
yeah, I know. It's just like, let's see. Well, I guess I could speak first. I think it'd be better than. What do you think? Do you want me to share first the screen, or how do you want to go about doing this?
Either one. Either one.
And Carolyn, what is your background? I guess maybe then we can fit it together.
I'm sorry, what's that?
What is your background?
Yeah, I'm the founder and CEO of Hello Alice. We're a free platform for small business owners. helping them to start and grow their companies. So we support nearly 300,000 small businesses there, helping them through all sorts of different issues. Obviously, many of them are working to get online and get their companies going.
Okay, that's great. So maybe we can even have a discussion together of what we're doing. It may be a little bit more interesting, and then we can get voices then from the audience to chime in. Great. I'm a professor at the University of Miami.
Oh, wonderful.
And
welcome.
And then I wear a number of different hats. I'm not wearing a hat today, but I wear a number of different hats where I'm in the Department of Business Technology in the business school, and I'm also in the medical school and health informatics and getting them started, of doing telehealth and all those types of things. So what we've done in the past, I've worked quite a bit with the business community, and especially during this COVID and before, I've been working with the city of Coral Gables, their smart city, and helping them. And as the pandemic came about, everyone was in desperate means there. And I had been always asking people should use the technology almost in a hybrid approach. And there's been such a wave of resistance. But that that the pandemic, everybody just got online, everybody got on Zoom, and it's almost like that hybrid approach. And how should these businesses then that are bricks and mortar, how can they now grow in this environment? So I've reached out to Coral Gables. I've helped them in a number of webinars. And basically, I also said my own students then can help these businesses as interns and helping these businesses get online. They're afraid about security as well. So it'd be interesting, we can talk about those ideas. But it's the idea of, I saw on our panel here is how secure, can I trust these systems, and should I be online as a small business? And now I say, you don't have a choice. You really need to be online, and how can you do it best? Also, how can you think about your data and to be secure? And usually it used to be in the bricks and mortar. You remember how it was with Target? They used to have that point of sale breach, and there were millions of credit cards, and then there were these card skimmers. Now those are going down, but what are the security risks are all basically digital online. So I've been working and deciding to see how we can work in a successful manner. One manner is as an example, with Coral Gables, we decided to do a demo lab and create a demo lab basically to evaluate all the software and hardware. And we can make our recommendations and bring in vendors that they can basically also not only educate us, but educate the community. We're looking at that. And then we're looking at another part, which is interesting now, is trying to make that IT center that was always just a cost center, try to make it now a profit center. So let's say we were a number of restaurants. If I hired IT people, maybe those IT people can then take that knowledge in, for instance, restaurants or other bricks and mortars, and basically give those services out. And the businesses, we're even saying those small businesses, they know about billing, so they can take a part of it. So we're looking at a number of opportunities there. And also we're trying to do, I do Fridays, Tech Fridays with Dr. Rush. And so a number of not only vendors, but a number of businesses come and we discuss and give them feedback. So it would be interesting almost to see how we can work together. It has to be a collaboration team. Nobody can do this alone.
Yeah.
No, we've absolutely seen that with the COVID crisis, that there's just been a huge gap where a lot of businesses weren't really ready to move as much as they needed to online as quickly as they needed to. And so it's great that there are resources out there and different entities to support that. But it's been a huge gap. And we're even seeing it now in the restaurant industry, where they're trying to get back to currently doing 25% indoor, but they even with all of that are still struggling with technology. Yeah. And then the additional problem is the technology, when it does connect, doesn't connect with everything. So you'll have, you can get a Q code for your menu, to be able to allow people to, then they can't order from that Q code. And if they can order from that Q code, it doesn't sink into your inventory. So it just seems like there's a huge level of a large gap between functionality and need right now. And I'm really hoping to hear how you guys might have some solutions or ideas around that.
Yeah, no, that's important. And, I do this for a living, and many times I'm struggling. Last week I had to go on Zoom, or now I'm doing 100% remote and doing all these meetings. And all of a sudden my webcam literally disappeared from my computer.
Well, that's an additional.
Figure out, can you imagine a normal person that needs to be online? And that's why you also have to think of backup and recovery and business continuity, is that you have to do it almost instantaneously. Before, it used to be backup and recovery. You could take days, weeks. Now you're going to be out of business if you take days and weeks.
No, absolutely. So, Carolyn, where would you say that you connect with this issue?
For us, it's all these small business owners that are trying to get online, and I think they're really struggling with, they might have a website, but really struggling on how to monetize and what they need to do and understanding the whole process. For us, it's just taking them through kind of step by step and breaking it down and helping them understand these issues in the simplest ways possible. We always try to be really tactical with them in terms of what does this actually mean, because you can tell people you need to get a website up, but it's overwhelming frankly, for most business owners. Like, I don't know how to program. I don't know how to.
So what do you do with them?
So we walk them through step-by-step guides that are all personalized to them. And so we take all the data points. We're a machine learning platform. So the more we learn about an owner, we're guiding them on a path based on what they know. If we know they have an in-house developer, we put them on a different path than if we know that they're a solopreneur trying to build this company by themselves. Mm-hmm. And then we walk them through step-by-step what that needs to be. And at every step, we're connecting them to tools and resources and experts.
So you start from the very beginning, and then you also do, if I'm more sophisticated, you have a different path for me than if I've been bricks and mortar and I'm just overwhelmed. So
exactly. Even knowing are you direct to consumer? Are you B2B? Are you all the things so we're always asking questions, and then they answer, meaning we are always, this is the program that's asking questions, or is it, you sit one-on-one with these? No, it's all automated. So everything that's online. Hello Alice is free for any business owner, so they can just get in and register. And then it walks them through everything we help them with everything from how to apply to PPP, to how to hire their employees, to how to go raise funding, and then certainly.
And what's artificial intelligence about it?
So we are both in the way that we're sourcing resources and understanding who are they relevant to. So we're always learning about what's relevant and helpful to who. And then also in the way that we're matching, actually making the matches in the path for the owners. So we say, if this is a successful path for owners who feel like you, then we can assume that that's going to be a good path for you as well. If we know a lot of people are hitting obstacles on this path and they're not growing.
And then what kind of software do you use? I mean, you have certain vendors you use, or how do you get them through this?
In terms of we're built on Rails, and so we are totally developed everything in-house. But we partner any number of vendors and partners and things sit on the platform. So we have over 100,000, hundreds of thousands now. Resources that we're always matching to people. So we've issued over $20 million in grants during COVID. Just always trying to make sure what do they need and how do we go source it.
But it's changing too. You need to have that agility, and you need to have that adaptability. That's the key now too. But if you're not going to be, you can't be static. You never could be static, but now it's even more important.
And that's what we try to really do, is sort of bridge the way that the tech world has been thinking about growing their businesses for a while, actually trying to bring that to the small business community, because it's been so antiquated in terms of, they're being advised to go build 50-page business plans and to go do all these things. They're not. I need
to be up and running, or else, I'm going to have to fire all my people, and I'm just going to be out of business, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's crucial.
I'd like to actually bring in the supervisor for a moment. I really appreciate you being with us today, Supervisor Cortese. I know that being on the county board, I know that you've faced not only the challenges of helping but also the abuse that maybe it's not going fast enough. If you could just take a moment and kind of frame the environment from your perspective, because I know that behind the scenes, you've been working tirelessly along with everybody else at the county to try to keep the wheels on. If you could just take a moment and share your perspective, I think that we would all really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here for a few minutes. I'm not really a part of the panel per se, but I wanted to have the opportunity to say a few welcoming remarks as an annual co-sponsor of the event. This is an event we usually do live and in person, of course, and this is just evidence of course, continuing evidence of the impact of COVID, that not only have we had problems with what people call shutdown or severe business restrictions, but we can't even get together, live real time to discuss the problems. So the pandemic continues to be a huge issue, but I wanted to welcome all of you here and thank you again for putting this on. Thank you, of course, earlier in the year for inviting me to be a co-sponsor as a member of the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors. One of the things I look back on is I wish I could call it complete foresight, but it wasn't. But some years ago, the city of San Jose was unable to continue funding, I think as part of the last deep recession, we were unable to continue funding something called the Small Business Development Center. And that, as I understood it at the time, catered to folks even beyond the city of San Jose and went to other cities in the county. And Dennis King, who I know is supposed to be joining us here today, came to me, and he's the executive director of that program, which is essentially sort of a pass-through for the Small Business Administration and the kind of funding that we're seeing now, stimulus funds. Basically an information center at the very minimum in terms of helping to connect people to those kinds of resources. And Dennis came to me and he said, how about the county of Santa Clara? We have much larger budget than the city. And for example, pre-COVID, it was an $8 billion a year budget. And he had a cost of doing business that he presented to me that seemed pretty reasonable in six figures, let's say. But I didn't know, we have a very limited economic development department or function in the county. We do all kinds of things. We have a huge health and hospital system. We have a 48,000 acre park system. We're supporting people through social services and other activities, to keep cash registers going in a way, but obviously to support the safety net. And we sat down and said, does it make sense for us to be in the economic development business? And the administration of the county got excited about that, as I was, and we've been funding and supporting it ever since. But as I said, you look back on it, thank goodness, when that first wave of shelter in place hit, people didn't know where to go. The Board of Supervisors, as I understand it, each office was hit with about 10,000 constituent emails the first 30 days. And we responded to them. I can speak, for my office, and I think every office did. But you can imagine how many of those were folks, wondering how to navigate. Where can we get stimulus funding? Or when can we open? Or is it possible to submit protocols to the county, to the public health department, perhaps to get open? What's going to come next? What's happening next? Along with the other kinds of constituent inquiries. Can I go pick up my child at college? Or am I allowed to close escrow on my house? So it has been obviously an interesting year for all of us. My heart goes out to the businesses who've had to wait so long, especially those that were deemed to be higher risk indoor businesses, particularly, I think, have just been delayed for so long in so many counties in the state of California, and obviously hit hard in other places in the nation. But I think as best as could be done, I think navigation has been handled pretty well here in the county overall. I think there's been a good, safe, methodical approach to opening. I'm eager to see what happens in the restaurant industry and some others who are allowed to come indoors. But what we all really want to see is a vaccine and get our businesses back to normal. And I thank you all for convening again today, this year, making this work, and for including me in my office. I wish you all well. A special thanks goes out to Silicon Valley Chinese Technology and Business Association and my good friend Helen Wang, who seems to be tireless when it comes to working on these kind of issues. So I'll let you get back to the panel. Kevin, thank you for.
Well, before you go, I definitely want to thank you. You know, a lot of people don't know all the work that you've done and behind the scenes. And whenever the Small Business Development Center was putting together webinars throughout the county in order to try to inform businesses on what they could do and what the issues were, you know, your office, and you were very helpful with getting some actual county, you know, shelter in place, the people that were writing the orders and the people that were helping to enforce them at the Department of Environmental Health was just very critical, you know, very helpful in helping to get those resources together and helping to get them on the webinar so that we could get the information out, because there was so much confusion, as there continues to be. So, you know, thank you. A lot of people don't know the work that you are doing behind the scenes. It's very much appreciated in the business community, because any information is going to be helpful, especially more helpful when there's so much uncertainty.
You know, thank you for those words, Kevin. And I know that in the county, there are people at the county who've literally gone sleepless for days at a time. I won't quite put myself in that category, but you know, running an emergency operations center and you know, the discrepancies we've had to work through from a public perspective, people wondering, why can I go in Costco but I can't go into you know, a car dealership and look at a car? I mean, that was the case the first 30 days of shelter in place, and you know, a lot of that had to be ironed out. A lot of people dealing with a pandemic for the first time of this nature, and obviously we're still not out of the woods. But it's, you know, this proves to me the value of convening year over year, even if normally we're convening around, you know, sort of the smart cities platform, cybersecurity, technology. But I've always felt this way throughout my public service career. You know, I got into public service at 45 years old after a business career, but I've always felt that it's good to convene, because you don't know when you might need to use that power of convening in the middle of a crisis or an emergency, or to help people pivot. And that's exactly what you're doing today with the symposium, is taking a group of people who are used to coming together around other issues and saying, you know, let's make good use of this opportunity for maybe a slightly different purpose, or at least a hybrid purpose today. So again, I've spoken way too long. Thank you for the acknowledgement. Thank you to the panelists, and we'll look forward to working with you in the future.
Actually, Kevin, before Dave Cortese leaves, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I did want to add, certainly one of the main convening forces in Silicon Valley, Santa Clara County, has been our Small Business Development Center program. And it's having a significant impact, especially during this time of crisis. This program would not exist in this county if it wasn't for the advocacy of Dave Cortese back in 2011. So 2011, 2012. So responding to a crisis, looking ahead, anticipating the needs of the community, being an advocate for practical solutions is a good part of what Dave Cortese has been about from the very beginning. So I wanted to again acknowledge his contribution to the overall community, and particularly thank him for his leadership and being an advocate on our behalf. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dennis. Enough Dave Cortese for now. Thank you so much.
Okay. So I do apologize to my columnist. Lon just came to the rescue. So here we are in the heart of Silicon Valley with technology challenges. So
what else is new?
I was going to say, so it goes. So Kevin, I'm really glad that you're here too. So don't please pop off, because I think some of the discussion could be very relevant to much of what you've been doing, particularly in terms of connecting small businesses to resources, including technology, to help them become successful, or at least to survive this crazy time period that we're in, and hopefully be prepared in all practical ways for whatever this new normal is going to be, or when it's going to be. So I apologize for interjecting as I did, and I don't want to stop the discussions in progress. I'd certainly like to be able to add to them. Carolyn, I've heard very good things about you and Dr. Rushnick. So I'm looking forward to hearing and participating in a continued meaningful discussion.
Yeah, likewise. Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Yeah, you didn't miss a whole lot. We did start and kind of intro and allow everybody to kind of give a little bit of background as to what they are doing. I mentioned the need from the Small Business Development Center perspective in acknowledging how unprepared most of our businesses were, not only for the COVID crisis specifically, but just how to get their business from that brick and mortar to something online, let alone secure, and let alone that can meet some type of revenue need. And additionally, to be able to do something with that information, that could actually help them to either project or move their business forward. I gave the example of the Q codes for the menus that don't actually speak to the kitchen or the inventory system, and how there is a need and a hope that some of this stuff can happen and happen securely. So, and then our two panelists were discussing their roles in that as well and giving us some good background.
Well, I was hoping to listen, so I guess I'll have to make up and listen in a hurry, I think. So certainly the whole concept of digital capabilities and e-commerce, especially secure e-commerce, has been increasingly important as time goes on. In the time of crises that we're now in, it's really a lifeline, especially in response to COVID-19, having people be sheltered at home. That sense of community has been challenged, and the challenge is how does one stay connected? And I think that's a major challenge for small businesses as well. How do you stay connected among your employees? How do you stay connected with the communities that you're serving? How do you keep in touch with your customers? How do you make them be responsive to the needs of customers in such an entirely different setting? And to keep in touch so that when things can start to open, as knock on wood, they're starting to do now, the customers will feel safe and secure, and that the relationship has been maintained even during this crisis. And I think that's where a good part of this digital bridge building is so incredibly important. But on that nature, Kevin, have they started to talk? I mean, for example, Carolyn, have you talked a little bit about Hello Alice?
Yeah, I'm happy to share if it's helpful.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's very understand your perspective.
Yeah, in terms of so we are primarily focused on small business owners, helping them navigate everything along their small business journey, from the moment they have an idea to the time that they exit. And we support over 250,000 small business owners weekly. Those are registered that we actually have information on that can come back regularly to our site. We support much more, I guess, in other ways that we don't even really fully know about. But primarily for them, obviously during this pandemic, it's disrupted everything that they've been doing. They're all looking to get, to really build up online, whether they were online before or not. Many are moving online for the first time. And are very confused and kind of overwhelmed by the process. Others are, they've been active for some time, but are really having to make that sort of the primary channel for them. And are looking to integrate products and services, or looking to bring in third-party vendors to the sites. They're looking to ramp up their marketing initiatives. And they're nervous about a lot of it because they don't understand it and they don't know what's safe and what to trust and what not to trust. And so we walk them through step-by-step guides and challenges and all sorts of things to help them just get comfortable with being there. And it's interesting, I think the reality is, look, most people aren't developers. And so they don't know, they're trying to sort of sort through these things. And even though there's so many more kind of plug and play solutions these days, there's a lot of junk out there too. And so I think they're trying to figure out, what do I trust, what do I not trust, and where do I go?
Did I hear you right? 250,000, you're saying?
Yeah, we're growing right now at about 5,000 new owners a week. So.
And when did you start?
We launched the platform in 2017, in May of 2017, and have grown. We certainly saw a jump during all of this, and really helped. We spent a lot of time helping owners just navigate PPP. We set up a COVID-19 business center. As I mentioned before, we've deployed over $20 million in grants. And so we're always trying to hear, we're data driven at our core. And so we're always listening to what do these business owners need? What are they telling us? And then how do we make sure that we're actually connecting them to the right resources at the right time, and ones that are relevant to them, so that they're not going down these rabbit holes that lead them nowhere.
Imagine the challenge of the small businesses that are interested in the economic injury disaster loans or PPP loans, and they don't have access to technology. That's the one area we haven't figured out, since we're so technology based. We do get every once in a while people will reach out and say we need help in this rural community or in areas where there isn't frankly strong connectivity or
restaurants. I can't tell you how many restaurant owners that I've gone into at the beginning of this crisis to have conversations with that are still doing the write it down on paper and stick it into the kitchen.
Yeah.
So for those guys, especially going from that type of an environment to something that you're describing, or the doctor, I mean, it really is a complete generational, if not technological, divide.
Yeah, it's definitely, well, I think PPP brought that to light. People that didn't have, they didn't have strong banking relationships, they didn't, or any banking relationship in some cases, just recognizing like you have to have things in order, because when these things happen, it was the companies that were well structured and set up to take advantage of it that benefited the most, and frankly, the ones that probably needed it the most didn't get what they needed. So that's a lot.
Were you able to come up with solutions to help some of those, the technical, the ones that had the technological issues?
Yeah, we set up everything for us is kind of step by step. So we break it down into, we never use sort of industry jargon and terminology. We break everything down into the simplest, most basic building blocks, and then walk them through what the relevant process is for them. So as an example, if they're hiring an employee, that process is different if you live in New York or California. We take into account where they live, and then we put them on a path that's relevant to them. It's also different if you're hiring your first employee versus your 50th employee in terms of what you need. And so everything is really kind of takes into account what the personal profile is, and then what their business profile is.
I would say that the biggest challenge that I'm seeing, and I don't know who has the answer to this, because it's something that I've been looking for, and I've spoken with many people, especially from the restaurant perspective, because that's the best example that I can give, and it's a strong part of my background. Going from being able to order correctly, because right now, if you're going from outdoor dining and it's going to be getting colder to potentially 25% indoor dining, you have your to-go and delivery stuff. Being able to connect all of the dots, and my example would be not only being able to have them order online, pay online, have all of that be secure, but then have that data feed into a inventory system that allows them to realize if they're going through, if their actual menu is changing based on the COVID crisis and based on the way that patterns have changed, because a lot of people may not order things that are perhaps delicious in the restaurant, but may not travel as well. There's a lot of restaurants have those signature items that are like that. And so how do restaurant owners and how do people in business are able to get that logistical information, and then once again being able to translate that into an online ordering system where they can then meet that changing need and obligation again securely? Are any of you seeing solutions like that? Or I guess even if we can't have that one solution, how do we cobble the different pieces together and do that securely so that businesses can make this adjustment? Because this isn't going to be going away, especially for restaurants, anytime soon. And as I look across the United States with some of the cases getting worse, if that happens here again, we may be backtracking as well. How do you make these adjustments and do it quickly? I mean, do you guys have ideas around that?
Yeah, I have another point, and we've been working with the University of Miami. We've been working with Coral Gables, the city of Coral Gables, in the analytics. How do I even analyze what I've done and how successful it is, and almost a predictive model? So once I see this, what do my customers really like? How will it go in the future? So we're even focusing on some of the analytics with them in the back end and looking at this data, which is, there's so many different aspects of just getting somebody online and then combining it with their social media. How do they even get known? That's another issue. Once I just put it online, how do I talk to my customer, and how do I make it an experience? We've had it even in our ways where we have bookstores And what they've done is they've converted and they say, okay, we used to have in our bookstores, we used to have our authors. Now we'll have our authors online, and in order from us the books, because people want to support like these local bookstores. Buy the book from us, and then you can get a signed signature from the author. You can have conversations. So I think it's an area of also dealing with a community. And it may even be, when you were talking about it, Kevin, is other restaurants can get together and find out what works and almost the best practices. Not even to think of them necessarily my Chinese restaurant and my sushi restaurant and my Italian. It may be a way in which to go together, because what we're seeing is there are small restaurants that are having a problem. Our chains they have the capital to overtake this, but those small portions, when they said 25% or 50% indoors, they said we can't break even on that part. So we've even seen our restaurateurs even getting together and supporting each other, because it is. You can't just say that it's a competition. We're in this together, and this may be an opportunity as well. And I think maybe we can then do, as I mentioned before, is a collaboration. Reach out to universities. Our students are dying to have internships where they can do something real. And in this case, they have, and I'm teaching technology. One thing, you have an image of students, they're so tech savvy. They're tech savvy in texting, but they're not tech savvy. Right. And you think, oh, my kid knows everything. They can set up my iPhone apps, but they're not tech savvy in how am I going to do the ordering and the back end of the inventory, and maybe pooling together, we can be more efficient. Or maybe now the restaurants are also selling, they have like these little gourmet restaurants within the gourmet grocery stores within their restaurants. They have to be flexible on this. So everybody's in a learning stage, and that's what I think can make the sense of community, because you're sitting out there.
I think that one of the biggest things I'm seeing, the struggle that we're trying to solve at the Small Business Development Center right now, especially for restaurants, is, all of this has been so overwhelming that right now, you kind of have to peel each problem like an onion. And the one that we're facing right now is, how do we get customers to feel safe with indoor dining? That's a whole nother level of, having surgical air scrubbers between the tables, having the plexiglass so that if you're going to lunch with somebody who isn't a part of your nucleus, that you're safe, having, the flow of the business traffic inside the restaurant and outside the restaurant, so that you're not passing, that you don't have people waiting. A lot of restaurants don't take reservations. They need to, because if there's a certain time limit that people need to be there, and who wants to show up and wait, and who wants to show up and hope that they can get a table when there's only 25% of the seating. So unfortunately, what we've been facing this year, it started off with the how do we keep them in business with the idle loans and the PPP. It's now been progressing into how do we just get them online ordering and get the food out the door reasonably. And then now it's how do we safely get people back indoors. And so unfortunately, we haven't even been able to get to some of these larger issues of how do we make the business profitable, or at least functional, through all of this. And so that's where you need to really feel bad, especially for the restaurants and other small business owners, because tactically, they're just trying to solve the problem that's facing them today. 2 days ago is whenever the county went to Orange and said that you can open up indoors. I spoke to, over the last 2 weeks, 36 restaurants, and they were all ready to open their doors and place the tables down, but they didn't have these types of ideas and these types of processes in place. Even though they've done a lot with what they're doing in the back of the house and the outdoor dining, there are other logistics for this indoor that are pretty critical. We are going to need to wrap up here in a couple of minutes. Wanted to see if there was anything that each of you could say, maybe go around and have you add to, as far as the security or even the next steps for businesses, what they might be able to look for. Carolyn, why don't we start with you?
In terms of, I guess, next steps, I think the biggest thing is making sure that there's a really clear path forward, I think, in terms of looking at the strategic needs of the business. I think there's so many things, there's a million paths to go down when it comes to security. What's really difficult is knowing what's relevant to your business and what are the goals and objectives of your company. And so always taking it back to, what is your business trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do? And how does security support those objectives versus just looking at it as kind of a standalone entity? And then also looking at the tools and services that you're using, because a lot of them have built-in security that you don't have to worry about going about the whole process yourself. So if you look at things, whether you're building your platform on, AWS, or if you're using a certain e-commerce platform like Shopify, there's a lot of those tools that are already built into it that can save you a lot of work and energy. And for a small business owner that doesn't have a lot of knowledge on that space, it can be incredibly helpful to those owners.
And how would people reach you?
You can reach us at Maria at Carolyn@helloalice.com, and then I'm active at helloalice.com within the community there each and every day, answering questions and joining the conversation.
Awesome, thank you. Dr. Rush?
What I'd say is also education. In companies, I agree with Carolyn when she said you really need to know your objectives. I would add on to it with this economy and what we're facing is you have to be adaptable too. But also in terms of security, is you have to educate not only yourself as the business owner, but their own staff and the customers and the vendors they use. So even if I'm using a Shopify or one of the others, I need to make sure that I know about my data. Many times we have what we call PCI, which is called, the payment card industry that I have to know about, that my data has to be stored properly. And there's other ways in which we need to secure our data. But I think there's more in which, even for my own team, that they know simple, even ideas on security, on phishing exercises. We've had even here, our dentists have had ransomware, that they can't even work because their secretary, they're not even selling their services, right? But they're online and their secretary gets an email and basically just clicks on it. And you know what happens there? That dentist wasn't even able to get their files. And this is not a sophisticated place. There's a dentist in an old building, in downtown, that he couldn't believe it, that didn't even have, the elevator wasn't even working. He had to now spend, weeks on forensic, computing to get rid of a ransomware. So they were just basics that he needed to know in his office place. So those is what I would stress as well.
Great, thank you. Dennis, wrap us up.
They often say that a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. And in a sense, this crisis is really a chance to challenge ourselves, to challenge our communities about what we are about and how do we support each other as a community. We often tell, when we're trying to provide services to small business owners, is to tell them that they're not alone. And when they're sheltered in place, now more than ever, technology getting access to one another, not just to their customers, but to the overall community, is more vital than ever. And just as we are asking small businesses, it's an overused word now, but to pivot, to understand where their strengths are, what they need to adjust to accommodate the new normal, as whatever and whenever that happens. That's also true for us service providers, because we too need to look at things in new ways. We've been honored to be the managers of 4 different cities that are providing grants to their small businesses. And right away, it becomes very obvious that trust is a major issue, especially in our immigrant communities. And for the micro enterprises, the small businesses that have not yet embraced technology, they can't even apply for the grants. So
what do you do?
If they're not already, they're even farther and farther behind.
And that would be another whole panel.
Yeah,
as we're wrapping up.
So you never think about it, but it shows itself. We don't think about it. Yeah. We're so connected. We don't even think about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we could go on with it for a long, long time. We do have to get to the next segment, but you guys bring up as many great questions and as many good points as you do. Many good points, I guess, is the deal. And I appreciate you all taking the time and sharing today. Yeah, this is a topic that could go on for a good hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, and we probably would still be the tip of the iceberg. And so I would challenge everybody to get a hold of you and to move forward with the additional questions that they have. And more than anything, I want to thank you for showing up and helping today to highlight the issues and also highlight the solutions and some alternatives that can help people. So thank you very much for joining us today. It was really a pleasure talking with you both.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Lan, for the invitation. See you guys.
Thank you.